2.0. Yesterday was a huge success for us, and we hope that it was useful information for all of you. I would like to remind everyone that there is an event survey in Attendee Hub, and we ask that you please fill it out. We really value your feedback, and we will use it to plan future events and make sure that the content we provide is useful. Secondly, we have been notified by our event provider that there is a minor bug in the Q&A portion of the event session. For some people, it may not be working, and if that's the case, I encourage you to log out of the event and back in, and it should be working. If that's not the case again, feel free to email me any questions, and I'll be sure to keep my email open and ask them to the presenter as they come in. But other than that, we are really excited to have Phil Mause from Rouse Analytics back for Interface 2.0 this year. And he's going to give a market update and a presentation about the updated integration between Fleet Cost and Care and his system. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Phil.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jane. I'm Phil Mause. I'm the Managing Director for Rouse Analytics. Excited to be here today, again, at Interface, presenting to Fleet Cost and Care's users. I thought what I'd do is start by giving a brief introduction to Rouse, the organization. For those of you who aren't familiar, I'll spend about 8 minutes doing that. Then some highlights on what we've been seeing in the crane space from the data we're collecting. So the trends that we're seeing around utilization and also some recent auction sales. And then I'll go through a demonstration of some of our products, which are now available to Fleet Cost and Care users as a result of our recently completed integration with them. So I'll start with the introduction to Rouse. We're an information services company entirely focused on delivering information to owners of construction equipment and cranes, as well as dealers. And our services are appraisals, used equipment sales, and analytics. I'm going to talk briefly about our appraisal service just to give you an introduction to the organization, and then spend a little more time introducing our analytics service, which I'm responsible for. So Rouse is a 100-year-old organization. We were actually founded in 1920 as Max Rouse and Sons. Scott Rouse, our owner, is Max's grandson. And we were originally heavy equipment auctioneers. So just like a Ritchie Brothers or Jack Lyons, we would auction off gear when companies were ready to dispose of it. About 20 years ago, there was a lot of M&A activity going on in the construction equipment rental space. At the time, United Rentals was buying about a company every week, and that created a lot of demand for appraisals. Being an auctioneer, we often got asked to do those appraisals because we were buying and selling equipment all the time. So Scott Rouse, our owner, and Gary McCardle, our chief operating officer, had the bright idea to build a database similar to a Kelley Blue Book, but for construction equipment, and then began requiring anyone who came to us for an appraisal to provide us with a trailing 12-month history of all of their private party sales, so direct to end user sales that are not publicly available. And over time, we built up this larger and larger database of retail sale comps and really became the only appraiser in the industry who could put accurate retail values on machines. So today we do annual appraisals for about 70% of the RER 100 by revenue. $45 billion worth of equipment a year across North America and the UK. The core of our appraisal service is our valuation engine and the data that feeds it. So month in and month out, we're collecting from our clients a little over $1 billion a month in private party sale transactions, about $18 billion a year. We load those into our database and use them to calibrate retail values on a universe of 40,000 unique make models and every model year and spec thereof. We also monitor the public auction data. We track over 50 auctioneers across North America, load the result of every sale, and use that to calibrate auction values on that same universe of machines. So month in and month out, we're collecting all this data and updating the retail value and auction value in our appraisal book, which enables us to deliver appraisals back to our clients. Now, in addition to the general construction space, we've been providing this appraisal service to crane companies for about 10 years now. Some quick stats on 2019. In 2019, we collected over 500 million of proprietary private party sales in crane categories. You can see the breakdown by category here. And we appraised a little over $4 billion of crane assets, again, with the category breakdown down below. So that's the work we've been doing on the appraisal side. And it was about 2 years ago that we shared with some of our crane clients information about our other service, Rouse Analytics. And there was a fair amount of excitement and interest. So we worked with first Maxim to get them set up on the service. And we've now built an interface with Fleet Cost and Care to bring on both J.J. Curran and W.O. Grubb. And we're excited to begin rolling out our rate and utilization benchmarking or rental metrics benchmarking service for O&M crane companies. Now, a little bit of history on that service. Really, our goal with the rental metrics benchmark service was to provide the same type of information to clients around rental rates and utilization that we were providing around equipment values, so that they could benchmark themselves against their competition and understand how they're performing on price and also utilization and other key performance metrics. We launched the service in 2011 with 5 companies. Today we have 194 across the US. So all of the big 6 national rental companies, 83 independent and specialty rental companies. We've got about 90 dealers, including every Caterpillar dealer in North America except Wyoming, and about 2/3 of the John Deere and Komatsu network, a handful of others, and 15 that we're in the process of bringing on right now. As I mentioned, we brought Maxim on late last year in 2019, and recently completed the process of bringing on W.O. Grubb and J.J. Curran. So this is now something that will be available to Fleet Cost and Care users, and we'll start to build up data in the O&M crane space. We have 23 companies participating in Canada as well. No O&M crane companies up there yet, but several that we're talking to. The way the service works is we set up a recurring data feed directly from the systems of all of the companies that we work with. Since we've gone through the process of building an interface with Fleet Cost and Care, that will be relatively easy for any users of their software. You won't have to invest any IT resources on your side. We'll be able to do most of that work ourselves with some questions around how you handle billing, depreciation, and other things. There are 2 primary components to that data transmission. One is a nightly fleet snapshot. So we look at every asset in the rental fleet on a nightly basis, and look at make, model, spec, serial number, all the descriptive information about the asset. But most importantly, is it out on rent at a job site earning revenue? And that's the basis for all of our utilization calculations and comparisons. So today we're tracking over 2.5 million individual pieces of equipment nightly, with an original equipment cost of just north of $64 billion across the US and Canada. We also get every line item on every rental invoice billed to a customer. And that's the basis for all of our rate comparisons. So when we're giving you benchmark comparisons of your rental rates, we're looking at actual invoice rates billed to customers, not list rates or quoted rates. In 2019, we tracked just a little north of 26 billion in rental activity across the US and Canada. Now, once the data lands on our servers, we have to go through a normalization exercise. We look at every asset in our clients' fleets, the make, model, and spec on every machine, and use that to assign it to one of our product types so we can compare it to like models or competitors. We also tie every invoice to a job site postal code so that we can compare your invoices to invoices in the same geography. So what we end up with is a match of each invoice you provide to us to a benchmark set where we've aligned the geography, the product, and the rental term so that we can give you an apples to apples comparison of your rental rates to the competitive set. What our clients get back from us is reporting on 7 key metrics. So rental rates, rate change, which is the period over period change in rate based on prior period activity, physical or time utilization, which is the percentage of your cost on rent during the measurement period, dollar or financial utilization, which is your annualized rental revenue as a percentage of your cost, fleet age measured in months from the date put in rental service, a revenue distribution, which is a look at your business mix, and also your performance ancillary charges, things like hauling, mobilization, demobilization, labor, and also the year-over-year change in units on rent and units in fleet. So you can track by product and by geography what's happening to fleet sizes. Are they growing or shrinking? And is the fleet actually going out on rent? So if there's fleet coming into my market, is it going out on rent or is it sitting idle? And we don't just look at averages. We'll actually show you how your list rate and all of your individual invoices compare to a benchmark range of rates that we observe for the industry based on the invoices we're collecting from all the other companies in the pool. There's sophisticated exact filtering, so you can filter out things like substitutions or down rentals, any special pricing agreements or annual negotiated contracts. And we deliver all of this through our online dashboard and our mobile app. I'll show you here in a minute. But before we do that, now that I've provided an introduction to us where we get our data, I just wanted to share some of the information we've observed on the crane market today. As I mentioned, we have across the companies we're already working with, about 25 companies providing us data on cranes. Not many of those are O&M crane companies as of yet, but we're hoping to build out this set with our interface with Fleet Cost and Care so we can provide more robust visibility into the total picture of the crane market. So I'll start by talking about utilization. So this is looking at all of the crane categories that we track today, utilization by month since January of this year across the country. What we can see is we saw a normal kind of seasonal growth from January through March. And then obviously with the impact of the pandemic, saw a pretty meaningful decline in utilization overall, about a 7-point drop from March to April. We lost another point of utilization from April to May. Since then, utilization has been broadly stable. We are just starting to see things tick back up a little bit here in September, but still nothing like the levels we were at prior to the economic disruption. When we look across categories, I'll start with rough terrain cranes. And this is one where we've observed a pretty significant drop. We were at 68.5% in February, dropped all the way down to 57 in April, in May, and have been pretty flat since then. A little bit of a rise up here to 58, but haven't gotten anywhere close to 60 since March. Looking at carry decks, this is another category where we saw about a 10-point drop. Now, the recovery here has been a little better than what we've seen in some of the other categories. We have seen utilization slowly come on carry decks to 54% over the past several months. When we look at crawlers, didn't see as much of a drop here. We went from 70.5 down to 67.1, and have actually seen a nice recovery through the summer. So again, for the subset of companies that we're tracking, we are now ahead of the levels we were at in March. Finally, we'll look at truck-mounted cranes. So here, generally a relatively low physical utilization category. We saw about a 4-point drop from March to May, and activity on those picked up in June and has tapered off over the course of the summer. So that's a little bit about the utilization information we collect. As I mentioned earlier, with the interface with Fleet Costing Care, we're hoping to build out this set so that we have a larger, more robust and representative sample of the O&M crane space, so we can provide better reporting on this going forward. And I'll show you in a moment what some of that will look like for individual companies that sign up for the free trial of our service. We do also monitor auction sales activity, so I just wanted to share some of that information as well. With the decline in utilization, we have observed in 2020 year to date a significant increase in auction sales across the crane categories we track. What you're looking at here is an index relative to 2018 of the number of units sold across the 50 auctioneers that we track in these crane categories. So you can see that in just about every category, we've seen a pretty meaningful increase in auction activity in 2020 year to date. The most notable being in the crawler crane category. So next, I'll just draw your attention to a couple of price observations we've collected. What we're looking at here is the average selling price through the auction channel on each one of these model years of crane. So you can see the Grove RT700E 2008 model year. In 2019, we were observing those selling for just a little over $100,000. We've seen that drop to about 80. The RT700E from 2011, we've seen a similar level of decline. The 890 2010, also a pretty meaningful drop off there, as well as the link belt HPC. So, generally what we've seen in the auction channel this year has been a pretty significant increase in volumes and a resulting decline in recoveries. So just wanted to provide some of this high-level information before getting into the detailed demo of our tool set. So with that, I'll transition to our app and our portal to show you what some of the tools that are now available to Fleet Costing Care users look like with this integration. So I'm going to start with our app just because it's simple. This does look a lot better on an iPhone, so I'll apologize for using the web-based version here. But really, this is just designed to be a helpful reference tool for a sales rep or a sales manager to use as they go about their day to understand their equipment availability, utilization, and rate relative to benchmarks for the industry. So this updates every night based on the information we get out of your system. What it's telling me is for each one of these categories, how many units I have in my fleet and how many of those are not on rent. So this is saying I have 1,600 rough terrain cranes in my fleet. 354 of them are in available status if I've got a customer looking for them. If I click on that category, for each size class, I'm then going to see the number I have in my fleet as well as the number available, my book or list rates, the numbers I have in my system. This is the market or industry average, which is again the average invoice that we calculate across all the companies that we're tracking. And we'll also show you your own average. And in addition to that, you'll see your utilization as well as the industry as of close of business yesterday. So you can understand how you stack up to the competition on both rate and utilization, as well as your own equipment availability at a quick glance here. And if you want to know where these 43 machines are located, because you've got a customer asking you for one, I click into this header record and it'll show me each crane, the status that it's in, how long it's been in that status, and the branch where it's located. So we've tried to keep this app really simple to make it easy for the sales reps to use. It is highly customizable, so you can actually customize for different roles in your organization what information you might want them to see here. Maybe you only want your sales reps to see a book and a floor rate, and you want your sales managers to have access to more information. We are also rolling out a feature that'll enable you to see everything. You'll look up a customer and see what they currently have on rent, as well as the last price they paid on everything they rented. So that's our app. Again, really designed to be a helpful reference tool for a sales rep or a sales manager. This is our desktop portal, which is designed, more for a fleet manager, somebody who's sitting behind the desk and looking to understand your performance relative to the market on price, utilization, and other key performance metrics, maybe making decisions about what you want to buy and sell and what you might want to move from one location to another. We're looking at this company's October month-to-date results. I'm just going to roll back to September so we have a full month here. And I'm going to walk through the numbers here, and if anybody has any questions, please submit them through the chat to Jane, and we'll try to answer as we go. So
hey, Phil, we have a couple of questions.
Sure. Sorry, I don't think I had the chat.
Sorry to interrupt you. The first one is, can you do forecasting based on previous season data?
So because of the role we play, where we're collecting all this information from competitors, we do have to be, somewhat limited in what forecasting we provide. But what we are able to do is share kind of a normal seasonal pattern that we've typically observed in prior years, based just on regular seasonality. So that is something we can share. Next question is the utilization available by region and or industry served. So I referenced this a little bit earlier, but we actually break the country up into 8 regions. So this is our region level of reporting. There are certain Federal Trade Commission guidelines we have to comply with around price information sharing. One of those is that we need to have input from at least 5 companies in any number we report. So what we're going to do is actually make this tool set and this data available to anyone who wants to plug into it for free until such time as we have meaningful O&M crane participation at least the regional level to give you benchmarks on your fleet. So we do try to, ultimately, if we have enough data points, we can take this all the way down to a market level, what I'm showing here. We break up the country into 126 markets. Those will roll up into 33 districts if we aren't able to count to 5 at a market level, or we'll provide our regional level comparison. Were there any other questions, Stan?
That's all I have right now.
Okay, cool. So going back to our XYZ company here. So they earned 8.1 million in rental revenue in the month of September. And the first thing we look at is how do they compare to their own book or list rates? And what we're showing here is that in this month, this company was running at about a 37.4% discount off their own book. So that's just relative to their own internal targets they have in their system. Next, we look at utilization. So that's the percentage of their cost on rent on average during the measurement period. So for the month of September, they had a $934 million fleet, and they were running 57.9% physical utilization. Financial use, that's their annualized rental revenue as a percentage of their cost, in this case, 19.7% on that 934 million. Now, this is all information you can probably access in your own system or through your own reporting tools. But what we're able to do is layer on benchmark comparisons. And we start with rates. So and remember, we have that rule of 5 we comply with. So the first thing we look at is of that 8.18 million, how much of your revenue are we able to match up to products and geographies where we have at least 4 of your competitors in our system renting the same item in the same area. In this case, it's 7.1 out of the 8.1 million, so the majority of the activity. And what we do is we compare the rates this company achieved on all of those contracts to what they would have earned if they had charged the industry average on every deal. And in this case, we're showing them at a 1.3% or about a $90,000 discount to the industry average on that 7.1 million. Now, I do want to note this dotted line here, which relates to the second FTC guideline we observed, which is that all of the actuals around rate are delayed 90 days. So we report your actuals against industry actuals up and through 90 days ago. For the more recent periods, we use the 10 years of historical data that we have at a product and market level to provide a seasonally adjusted trend line extending forward from the most recent month we have actuals for to compare your most recent activity to. So this is how we give you the best possible reference point we can while maintaining compliance with the federal guidelines. Now, utilization is not a price-related metric, so there we're able to show your actual utilization against the industry right up and through the most recent month. In this case, this company is 1 points more utilized than the industry on the portion of the fleet we're comparing. And then we look at financial utilization, so they are netting out to a slightly higher financial use. So at a high level, this company is a little below the industry on rate, a little above on utilization, netting out to a slightly higher financial use. Now that's interesting, helps you understand your performance at a high level. But really what this tool is designed to enable you to do is to drill down into geographies and products so you can better understand how you're performing on different size classes and also different parts of your footprint. And manage and monitor your sales force and provide them with these comparisons as well so you can understand which sales reps are performing relative to others on price and some other key metrics. So the first thing we do down below is we break this performance down by geography. So for each location, we'll show the amount of revenue compared and the premium or discount relative to the industry on rate. So you can see for location 305, you're 7% below at a $40,000 discount to the industry average rates in that branch's area. Whereas for 371, you're about 4% above the average rates in that area. Next, we look at this by major equipment category. So for each category of crane, you'll see the amount of revenue compared and the premium or discount to the industry in dollar and percentage terms. And finally, we look at it by contract length. So monthly, which is all of your monthly rate agreements, new monthly or monthly agreements billing for the first time in the current month, weekly, daily, and we just recently with the fleet cost of care integration. So I'm just going to click into rough terrain cranes. And what this is going to do is the categories will become cards here on the left-hand side of the screen here. And I'm going to see each product within the category here in the grid. As I go across left to right, I'll see my total revenue, as well as what I would have earned if I had charged the book rate on every deal and my discount off my own book, how I compare to the industry average from a rate standpoint, and also the comparison on utilization. And I can pull in additional data points here if I'm more of a power user, or if I want to drop this into Excel and manipulate the data myself. I'm just going to drill into one of these products. We'll go with the 80-ton rough terrain crane. So if I click on the product, now the products will become the cards here on the left-hand side of the screen. And I've got that same scorecard view specific to this product. The first thing I'll see down below is a comparison of my utilization by week, all the way back to this time last year. This is something that we rolled out for our users in mid-March, as everybody wanted to pay close attention to utilization. And if I look at the scorecard, I can see how I stack up to myself on my book rates. What is my utilization, both physical and financial? And then how do I compare to the benchmarks in my market based on actual invoices and fleet snapshots on rate, physical utilization, and financial utilization? As I scroll down, I can look at a summary of my discounting on rate relative to the benchmark by sales rep. So for each rep, I'll see the amount of revenue compared and their premium or discount relative to the market or benchmark average. I can actually engage this list and see for each rep which customers they rented to. And I can get all the way down to an individual invoice level that I can look up in fleet cost and care. I can also look at a summary of this activity by customer, drill down and see which sales reps rented to them, and again, get right down to an individual invoice level. I like to look at this rate type screen because it shows me everything in one place. So we've got monthly, weekly, and daily transactions here. I'm just going to focus on the monthlies to start. So this is saying we compared $481,000 of revenue, and this company was at a 2.8% premium relative to the industry average. Now, what we showed down below is the distribution of all of their invoices and how that aligns with the range of rates that we observed for the industry. So these are rate ranges down the left-hand side. The blue bars are this company's invoices. So this bar is indicating that they had 6 transactions that took place between 14,372 and 14,915. If I click on that bar, it's going to take me right through to the underlying contracts. I'll see the contract ID, the equipment ID, the sales rep, the customer, anything else I might want to know about that agreement. I can also go look it up in my system. If I go back, what we'll also show here is this company's book or list rate, $16,000 in this case, as well as the range of rates that we're observing for the industry. So this is the benchmark top quartile. So if there's 100 invoices in the market, we're looking at the average of the top 25% by rate. The overall average, 11,713. And then the bottom quartile, right around $10,200 here. So what we can see is this company's got a book rate that's well above the market range. They're getting it some of the time, but most of their activity is happening here in the range that we're observing for the industry as well. And then they've got a fair number of transactions happening below the industry bottom quartile. And we'll actually quantify this for you here so you can see it. This is $96,000 of activity at an $8,900 discount to the bottom quartile, or to that red line right there. Now, that's how you can drill down or peel the onion, if you will, from a rate standpoint. The other thing we provide comparisons on is what's happening to fleet dynamics. So if I look at this year-over-year change tab, this is going to tell me something about what's happening to industry supply and demand, or capacity, in my market. And what we can see is that on a year-over-year basis, for this size class crane, this company is down 32, or sorry, the market is down 32.6% year over year. So when we look in this company's footprint at the number of 80-ton cranes on rent this year versus last year, we're seeing 32.6% fewer cranes on rent on average in the month of September. Utilization is down 7.5 points, less than the decline in units on rent. And that's because we've also seen a drop off in the size of the fleet, aligned with that increase in auction activity that we're seeing. So fleet size is coming down. Rates are down 1.4%. And then what we can do is compare this company's growth to the market growth to show that in this case, because they're up year over year and the market is down, they've exceeded this decline in the market by 98.3 units. So that's the extent to which they've outgrown the market. So this is a helpful way of just understanding, what's happening with fleet sizes and rental demand by product and by geography. So you can understand, what's happening with fleet dynamics. We also take this down to what we call a fleet manager or asset level view. So this will show you every asset in this size class of crane. A lot of information out here to the right, and you can drop this into Excel if you want. But if I click on one individual record, it's going to show me, the make, model, spec, serial number. This is the way we have the asset classified. So we'll put your asset into our standard taxonomy, where it's located, the status that it's in, if it's out on rent to a customer, who is it out to? Some revenue and maintenance history, so life-to-date revenue, rental revenue, maintenance, labor, parts, as well as the age, meter, cost, and net book value. Kind of everything you would need as a fleet manager if you wanted to think about selling this out of your fleet. So that's, again, how you can go all the way from the top down to the bottom to an individual asset from a fleet standpoint. If you don't want to navigate through all these menus, you can also search for an equipment number or a product description here in the box, and it'll take you right to the relevant page. The other way a lot of our clients like to use this information is to measure the performance of their sales force. So this will show you all of your sales reps sorted by discount off of market. So you can see who's giving the biggest discount relative to the benchmark rates in your area. For each rep, we're going to show the unique number of customers they did business with, the number of rental transactions, total revenue versus book potential, so what they would have earned if they had charged the book rate you have in the system on every transaction, as well as the amount of revenue we're able to provide industry comparisons on versus what they would have earned if they had charged the industry average rate on every transaction. So now if I click down into a sales rep, this is going to show me that same scorecard view we saw by product, but for this rep. So I can see how are they doing from a volume and book rate achievement standpoint. How do they compare to the industry average rates or benchmark rates in that area they're doing business? We'll also quartile out that activity. So you can see how their rate performance compares to those lines in the histogram we showed on the prior page. The green is where they're charging a premium rate above the green line, that top quartile that we showed on the prior page. You can actually click into that slice and it'll pull back all of the individual transactions so you can see which cranes, which customers, everything you might want to know about the deal. We'll also show where they're between the average and the top, between the average and the bottom, or this bottom slice down here is where they're charging a rate below that red line that we showed on the prior page, or below the bottom quartile. And again, you can click right into that slice to see those transactions. You can also review their performance by customer. So this will show you how they're doing with each customer from a pricing standpoint. You can drill down and see which products they rented to each customer and get all the way down to an individual invoice level. Or you can look at a summary of this information by product, see which customers they rented to, and drill down that way. So the idea here is to give you a tool you can use to analyze your sales reps' performance and understand how they stack up to each other and also relative to the competition and how they're performing on price and some other key metrics. We do also enable you to slice and dice all of this information by customer. So this is comparing your rates with each customer to the average rates in your area. We do have some additional slicers you can apply here. For example, if you have customers with annually negotiated price agreements, and you want to compare just your price agreement customers to price agreement customers for the rest of the pool, you can do that by selecting our contract rate benchmark. You can also look at a comparison of just your non-contract and shorter duration customers, so less than 6-month rentals, to a benchmark that is specific for that subset. So a lot of different ways you can slice and filter the data to look at different comparison points depending on what's relevant for you. And then finally, we enable you to look at all of this by geography. So let's say you have a 3-level geographic hierarchy, branches, districts, and regions. I could look at my districts and it'll show me for each one how I compare to my book rate, the industry average rates, how I'm doing on utilization. And I can pull in additional data points here or drop this into Excel or send it to a PDF. I can also expand out to see the branches within each district. So that's the overview of the product. I guess I wanted to just close by saying that with the integration now complete, we are in a position to offer this to any fleet cost and care customer who is interested in coming on board. We are going to make this free, so there's no charge for it until such time as we have enough participation in the O&M crane space to provide you with at least regional benchmarks on your fleet. So that means we have to have 5 companies in your area. Obviously, the reason we're offering the tool set for free initially is so that we can build out that critical mass of participation to really provide better metrics and better data to O&M crane companies. And in the interim, you can rekey all of this reporting to be focused on your book rates. So all of the, until we have benchmarks, all the sorting and filtering will be based on how your sales reps, your customers, and your different products, how you're achieving against your own book rates where we don't have benchmarks. So I'll close with that and just open it up if we have any questions.
Hey, Phil. So we had a few questions come in. The first one is, and you did touch on this a little bit, but I'll let you, give a little bit more information if you've got it. The first one is, what is included in the integration with NextGen?
So basically access to everything we see here. So the app, the portal, also our APIs and any data feeds if you want to bring information into your own internal reporting infrastructure, as well as support for an unlimited number of users. Again, so we're going to be offering this on a complimentary basis to anyone who's willing to put their data into the pool until such time as we have a critical mass. Then you'll still have complimentary access to trial the benchmarking information before deciding whether it's something you want to pay us for.
Great. The next one we have is, can you see the highest and lowest rates that a type of equipment is being rented out for?
So what we can't report the high and low because we have to observe that FTC rule around having 5 inputs. What we are able to report, and let me just show you this for the 80-ton rough terrain crane we were looking at earlier, is a max and a min. And the way that we calculate that is this is a market share weighted average of everybody's highest invoice and everybody's lowest invoice. So if there's 5 companies in the market, we're going to take each one of their highest invoices and do a weighted average based on their market share to get the max. And we'll do the same thing with their lowest invoices to get the min.
Great. The next two are a little bit similar. The first one is, what is the potential impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence on the construction industry? And the second one is, can you use IoT devices and real-time location technology to improve utilization measurement?
So maybe I'll start with the second one. We are able to, if you're using IoT devices and telematics to feed that information into your system, we are able to consume that information to make sure that we're capturing and tracking your utilization accurately. At any time, you can actually download your full fleet listing here, and it'll show you all your utilization information as of close of business yesterday. Right now, we do only update this information nightly. We have the capability to do that more frequently, but it's not something our users have pushed us to do as of yet. With more people putting telematics on devices, that might be something we do. So the question about, AI and the potential impact on the construction industry, I guess I would say it's something that we're really excited about. We believe that the construction industry as a whole is just starting to leverage data in a better way, and we feel like we're part of that wave. The service we provide here is actually something that has been available to hotels, airlines, and rental car companies starting in sort of the early 1990s, so about 30 years ago. We're excited to bring that type of information and reporting to the construction equipment industry, and we believe that it'll help the industry mature and make more data-driven decisions going forward.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the questions we have. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I guess I'll just close by saying if you're interested in learning more about this and getting set up with the integration for the free trial, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I think my contact information is available on the website. Or if not, you can always ask me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Phil. Really interesting presentation, very data focused. And to all our customers who are online now or viewing this later, I encourage you to reach out to Phil. They're great people to work with, and they have a lot of data that can be useful in managing your business. So thank you, Phil. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. For everyone else, please be sure to join our next session. It starts at 11:30 Central Time. Taylor Harmeyer and Kyle Sneerly from Fleet Cost and Cares training team are going to be doing a session on managing parts and inventory in NextGen, and we will have Q&A available. So please join that session.